Good morning. Today is Tuesday, the 21st day of Sivan. We continue now in chapter 7. It's quite a long chapter of the Shaar Hayichud VeHaemuna. So we explained yesterday about the concept of the two oneness, the two unities, Yehuda Ila'a veYehuda Tata'a, the higher level of oneness and the lower level of the unity, the oneness of Hashem. What does that mean? And we explained that Hashem creates a world and he places his infinite light in the finite space and time, which is something which really not easy to understand. It's in fact, Alter Rebbe explained, this is impossible to understand how it's done. But he gives us explanation as much as we can understand. And he began this chapter by explaining what it says in the Zohar, the Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, refers to the higher level of oneness, unity, where looking at the world from God's perspective. And the second verse, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Elolam Vod, is looking at this world from our perspective, but from our perspective to see that really everything is God. Now, and yesterday we asked the question, 2 days ago was, what was the purpose? Why does Hashem hide from us? Why does Hashem need to conceal his light and that we should feel ourselves as independent existence? And the answer was, because that is the only way to have God's kingship. There's many things, many attributes of God that can be given to the creature, the created beings. There is the kindness of God. That's all no problem. Hashem gives the kindness. The emotions, these attributes do not necessitate to have something, an independent existence. But when it comes to the level of kingship, that Hashem should become king on the world, to be king, you need to have a separate entity, which is the people. You need to have an entity that, on the one hand, has some kind of a relationship. He has to be a human. He cannot be a king over animals. But at the same time, you need to have the one you are king over, your kingdom over, has to be someone who is not part of you, not your family, not your children, not even the ministers. If you have a bunch of ministers, you cannot be king over them. You have to have people. And people, we explained, is Am in Hebrew, the nation, the people, from the word Amemut, which means that there is this spark, like the coals, that the fire is hidden and you don't see the fire. Same thing, the people, you don't see the godliness in them. And they feel themselves a separate, independent existence. And only then Hashem becomes king over us. And our job is to reunite and to recognize that we are really part of Hashem. And this, Alter Rebbe explained, there is two ways. There is a way from Hashem's perspective, saying that really everything is nullified, everything really is godliness. And that, we explained, is also represented in the two names of Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and Adonai, Aleph Daled Nun Yud, the way we pronounce the name of Hashem. Now, there is the way Havaya, the Havaya in Adnai, there are two names. Havaya represents the endless, the light of Hashem, which is beyond space and beyond time. And the Adnai is from the word Adon Olam, Adnut, the one, the master of the world, which represents after Hashem contracted his light into this world, we feel ourselves separate entities. And these two names are intertwined. And we brought yesterday the example when we saw that there's two ways of being intertwined, these two names. You can have Havaya intertwined in Adonai, meaning that the first letter is Aleph from Adonai, and then the second letter is Yud from Yud Kei Vav Kei, and so on. The third letter is the Daled. Or you can have the other way, that Adonai is intertwined in Havaya, in the Yud Kei Vav Kei. And yet, so we began, so we explained, when Havaya is prominent, Havaya is the way you see it from above, then the Adna is completely nullified in Havaya. And when the Adna is prominent, you do see this, the existence of this world, but you see also how Hashem, the infinite light, is within this Adonai, within this limited light. And yesterday, he started explaining the Yehud Ilah, the higher level of oneness, and today, the Alter Rebbe continues in the lower level of oneness, the way we see it from our perspective. So, let's look inside, and we'll continue as the Alter Rebbe says inside. V'hinei, says the Alter Rebbe, Af al pi shehu yizborich l'mayla me'amakim v'azman. Now, although God transcends space and time, Af al pi keinu nimtza gam lemata b'makim v'azman. He nevertheless also he's found below, within space and time. Even as space and time, meaning the dimensions that constitute the world, exist in their own eyes as independent entities. Hashem is there, even in the infinite, even in the finite place. The Hainu, which means Shemisyached b'midas malchusoi, Shemimeno nimshach v'nisav v'amokim v'azman. That is, that he unites with his attribute of malchus. As we explained, what is the attribute of Malchus? Malchus is the attribute of Hashem's kingship. Malchus is compared to human, in human terms, compared to speech. Speech versus the emotions or intellect. Emotions and intellect is for yourself. Speech is for others. Malchus represents the concept when Hashem, the godliness, is being transferred to the next world. To become a source of energizing something outside of you. So this is the attribute of Malchus, from which space and time are derived and come into existence. So the space and time, that all comes only into existence from the fact that Hashem makes it and has this tzimtzum, this contraction into space and time. V'zeu yichudat hatoh, and this is yichudat hatoh, the lower level unity. It says in this state, created beings are not totally nullified in relation to their source, the attribute of Malchus, in as much as it allows them to be aware of their own existence. So what we explained yesterday, Yichud Ilah, is when you're completely nullified. You don't even feel yourself your own existence. This is like in Atzilus, the word of Atzilus, it's completely nullified into its source. Yichud Tatah, the lower level of unity, is when Hashem, we see the godliness in us the way we are limited beings. And this, he says, is called Shiluv Avaya Be'atnus Baruch Hu. This meaning the intertwining of the letters of the name Avaya within the letters of the name Adnus. As we explained, that you have Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, and within the Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, you have the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey. In this instance, the divine name Avaya is intertwined and vested within the name of Adnut, meaning Avaya is concealed and submerged while Adnut is revealed and prominent, allowing for the creation of time and space. Meaning that his essence and being, which is called by the name Ein Sof. Now the Rebbe explains that when we're talking about the essence and being of Hashem, we're not talking about the very ultimate essence of God. We're talking about here the essence that is named Ein Sof, the ultimate, the infinite part of Hashem, the part of Hashem that is infinite. So that, the infinite one, it completely fills the whole earth, temporally and spatially. In space and time, Hashem fills that infinite light of Hashem, fills the space and the time. Ki b'shamayim imal ba'oretz uledalet sitrin hakol mole be'oir ein sof baruch hu b'shove mamash. For in the heavens and above and on earth below, and in four directions, everything is equally permeated with the Ein Sof light. For God is to be found on the earth below exactly as he is in the heavens above. And that explains the verse that we explained in the beginning of the chapter. Where Yom the Alter Rebbe says you should know today, Ki Hashem Elikim, God is the Lord, Bashamayim Imal Val Aretz Mitachas, and heaven above and the earth below. And we ask, is that what does it come to teach us? That there's no other God? No. It says it comes to teach us that there's nothing else. That this infinite light of Hashem is there in every place equally. For everything, including both heaven and earth, is within the dimensions of space, which is utterly nullified in the Ein Sof light, which clothes itself in it through God's attribute of Malchus that is united with him. So the Malchus of Hashem is united with him, with the Ein Sof, with the infinite part of Hashem. So, and that is what is clothed into space and time. However, if it is clothed in the space and in the time, then how come we exist as independent existence? We should be completely nullified out of existence. And that explains this is where the concept of the tzimtzum comes in. The contraction, the concealment. They are not nullified because God's attribute of Malchus is the attribute of tzimtzum and concealment. Whose function is to hide the Ein Sof light so that it will not be perceived by created beings. So that the existence of time and space shall not be completely nullified. And there will be no dimension of time and space whatsoever, even for the lowest world, the lower worlds. It is only because of the concealment affected by Malchus that time and space exists for created beings. This is what the Baal Shem Tov says. This is one of the the novelties that the Baal Shem Tov introduced, the concept of that Hashem is everywhere, that the Hashgacha Pratis, the divine providence, is in every little detail of this world. And that was a new thing in his time. Today, we all know it, and it's obvious. But at the time of the Baal Shem Tov, it was not such a common knowledge. We say, okay, Hashem, yes, we know Hashem created everything, but Hashem really cares. We know the famous story about Shem Tov got his students and told them to come to see how a leaf, Hashgacha Pratis, a leaf falls off the tree, and to see how the leaf went and covered a worm that was protected it from the hot sun, and then the worm ate the leaf, and explained how everything is by divine providence. Not even a leaf falls off the tree for no reason. Every movement, every wind, everything in the world is by divine providence. But this is one part that the Baal Shem Tov introduced, but also the idea that the symptom is lo kipshuto. When we're talking about that symptom, the contraction is not literal contraction. It's not the literal removal of Hashem's light. It is only a concealment to us. We don't see the godliness. But really Hashem and the infinite Hashem is in every little detail, every little creature in this world has in it the infinite light of Hashem equally. So this is the end of today's shir. Tomorrow we'll continue this very profound chapter in the Shaar Hayichud VeHaemuna. Any questions we can ask now? Don't forget to share and subscribe and get other people to join this shir.